Well, everybody, welcome to the newly made DIY electronics bench. Probably not lab, but bench. So me and a few mates we took all the stuff from upstairs in the apartment, brought it all down here. People were complaining about the glass table workbench, so that makes sense. We built this just out of cheap materials from Bunnings, and yeah, now we've got all my stuff down here. So what do you do when you've built a workbench, an electronics work lab? Well, the first thing you're gonna do is make something fun, obviously, right? So what's fun? Dangerous shit. So we made a taser. And this is that.
There's no doubt about it, Aussies love a party. And a chance for a bit of outback fun.
Move this guy away. So this is the taser. It has a couple of features. We put a safety switch on the back here, so it's not armed now. This is the firing push button. No taseries. Click this in. It's live now, so if I click this, it's loud as hell. So the safety's on now. Nothing's happening. Can be charged by USB, which is pretty cool, convenient, straight from your, laptop or USB 5-volt output. And yeah, that's it. This is the first revision, so I'm gonna try and improve on this in a couple of different ways. Primarily, I'm gonna try and make the thing a bit smaller because it's quite big to hold, and yeah, it's not bad, but it just needs to be a little bit smaller, I reckon. Before I go into it as well, this video is completely educational. You can't go build this at your own house, it's illegal, completely illegal. So do not do it. After I make this video, I'm gonna destroy the taser so it can't be used anymore. Okay, that out of the road, let's get into it. Key components. A transformer. So what transformer basically boosts electricity from a low voltage to a high voltage. Well, in this configuration it does. I'm not going to go into all transformers, but what this transformer does is boosts your voltage from your battery, which in this case is 4.2 volts, from the 18650 cells to it says 500,000 volts, but I'm really not sure. But it's enough to arc through the air, so it's a hell of a lot of volts. This is essential. We have this guy here, which is just two 18650 cells in parallel. I was tinkering around with this last night and I buggered a few things up, and this is, for some reason I fucked up and made this the wrong way around. So this red wire is the neutral wire and the black one is the positive wire. And I'm just gonna strip this guy down here. Cut him off. I'll just cut it quite long for now because I don't really know how long I need this to be. I've never soldered this stuff before. I left a bit of a tab so I don't need to solder into the battery. I left this bit of a tab on there, and that's what you should do. Unless you have a spot welder, you don't really want to be giving a lot of heat to the actual battery itself because it's just not good. This is quite a small soldering tip, so I don't really know if this is going to have enough thermal mass to solder to this guy, but let's see if we can. Yes, it pulled on. All right, perfect. We've got a pull there. Now all we need to do is, we probably don't even need to tin the tip of this wire, but I usually tin the tip of this guy by just getting a bit of solder like this. Heating this guy. Fuck, this is awkward. Heating this guy up. It's usually in the helping hands as well. Heat the wire up and then just get the solder, yep, and you tin the tip. You know when it's done, it goes all shiny, covered in solder. And then I'm just gonna tack this guy under here, like this. Yeah, that'll do, just fine. So he's on there now. I'm gonna probably take this blue wire off and replace it with my own wire. So I'll do that now. Red makes sense to me, right? This guy. So cut him a bit long because I don't know where it's going in the housing. Strip him off. whenever you're taking solder off, whenever you're playing with old solder, you always apply new solder to it, because the old solder is just, it just gets crusty, and applying some new solder makes life so much easier. Get him on there. And I just got a fucking burn. Should be wearing gloves, but whatever. I'm probably just gonna leave that on there like that. Not gonna take off all that old solder. Should be fine. Don't really need so much. I might tin the tip of this guy as well. Heat up the wire, get the solder, and just string it across. It should wick really easily. I'm gonna trim this guy down a bit because it doesn't need to be so long. And get him on here. Let it cool down. Looks a little bit crusty because of all the old solder on there, but she'll be fine, mate. Tuck it back around. Now we've got our 2 wires for our supply. Now I want to heat shrink this, but I don't have any heat shrink that's big enough. I don't think this will be big enough. Where is it? This guy. No, it's not big enough. So I don't know what to do about that. I might just kind of dodge it and wrap it in electrical tape. I mean, it's not going to be visible, right? So it doesn't really matter. Might do that. So the idea of 2 cells, right? You can do this, you've seen, I tested it with the 1 cell before. You can do it with 1 cell, but the idea of 2 cells is, these are in parallel, right? Positive to positive, negative to negative. I went through this in my previous videos. And what this does is, each cell is seeing less current. So the cell is going to last longer. It's just less stress on the cell. Better for the cell in every way. And also, you're getting longer life out of the taser, or whatever you're building, right? The more cells you have in parallel, the longer battery life you're going to get. And the less stress on the cells. So it's just a win-win-win-win-win. The only obvious loss is size. Your device is going to be much bigger, and if you're buying the cells new, cost, because batteries are quite these 18650 cells are quite expensive. So I'm going to put a bit of tape over this guy as well. All right, so I've ghetto heat shrinked, aka electric taped the shit out of this battery pack. Now I've just got these 2 nice little wires that we can solder onto this guy. And we have, so yeah, here we have a couple of switches. So this is the safety switch, this guy here, and this guy here is the firing switch. So how it is wired up, we basically, it's very simple. All we have is the neutral from the 18650 battery pack coming out of here into the safety switch. This is a push button switch, a single pole, single throw, not momentary. It's actually, it stays depressed because that makes sense, right? So neutral, not positive, despite the color of the wire. Neutral coming out into this battery, into this push button, and out of this push button into the firing momentary push button. The links for all of these components, well, the links to my website and then all of the components are in the description, and it's got like the report where you can download all the information for this build. So yeah, into the momentary push button, the firing mechanism, into out of that into the neutral of the transformer, and then out of the positive of the transformer into the positive of the battery. Again, the black is positive in this case because I buggered the wires up, but I'm going to fix that later. And realistically, that is it. So these cells are completely charged up, and let's give it a test. So I'm going to put that on. So the safety is off. Now if I click the firing pin, the firing push button, it's going to go. So like this. Ready? A little bit closer together. See, they're got to be quite close. There we are. So now I'm going to turn the safety on. So if I click it now, nothing's going to happen because the safety is on. No power getting to it. So basically that's how you wire it up. The schematic is going to be in the video description. Well, yeah, as I said, the report's in the video description. So that's all good and well, but how do we charge this thing, right? You don't want to have to plug it into like one of these guys or any other big charger every time you want to charge the unit up, right? No, of course not. This is where we use a little 18650 charger circuit. Now this is called a TP4056 off memory, and basically what it does is regulates the 5-volt input from the USB to a stable 4.2 output, and it also like it's just a charging circuit. So it once the battery's fully charged, it turns it off so it doesn't overcharge or anything like that. It's got a couple of little nifty features as well. It's got some lights on it, so we have get off there. We have this LED here is the full charge indicator light. So if you're plugging it in, you've had it in for hours, this will turn blue once it's fully charged, and the one above it is the charging light, so that's red, which is illuminated whilst it's charging. So basically all we need to do to get this guy in the circuit is hook it up in parallel with the battery pack, and you've got to make sure you get the polarity correct. And this is where the polarity is extremely important. So you need to have, and this is where the colors, because I've put them backwards, is not very good. So we need the positive of the battery connected in parallel, like that, and like that, just in parallel with the battery. Yeah. Oh, and also what I'm going to do is, right, because these are like surface mount LEDs, tiny little things, and this is going to be enclosed in a 3D printed case. Little surface mount LEDs aren't any good. So what I'm going to do is, don't know if you can see it, but I've removed the surface mount components, and I've just put a little couple of wires, and all I'm going to do is just use some through-hole LEDs, some nice big ones. I've got a red one for charging, and I think I'm going to use green for completely charged instead of blue. And I'm going to mount that on the outside of the 3D printed housing once it's all complete, but that'll be like the last thing. I'll mount it and then solder these guys up. So now I've got to think about how we're going to make this compact, and I'll put a little bit of thought into it. And I think it's going to be a bit chunky, a bit smaller. So what I'm going to do is get this guy set up like this, get my two 18650 cells, get the transformer, put it like that. Then I'm going to get a little bit of electrical tape from somewhere. I mean, you could use like hot glue or whatever, but electrical tape is just as easy. If I can actually even find where it is. Where's the opening? There it is. Okay. Well, that should do it. So we've got that secured now. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is put the actual firing push button up on the top here between the two actual pins, the like terminals for the where it'll arc. Put the push button there, so it'll be like that, click click, and then it'll be like arcing across here, but the 3D printed housing is going to come out a little bit. And I'm going to have the safety button on the back down behind here. Like, I'm going to kind of put it in there. But basically, like, if you didn't want a 3D printer housing, you could put this circuit in anything. Or like you could just wrap it up in masking tape and, have it, wrap it up in masking tape and then just like attach these two electrodes to, some bolts or whatever, and just wrap it up in masking tape and have these bolts coming out. But I'm going to make a housing just because I want it looking good. Okay, so after a decent amount of time 3D printing this case, it's finally done. So this is the main housing. This guy took 12 hours. But, I mean, it's quite big. So it's 3 mil thick and I think like 120 mil long. And yeah, so here's the firing push button hole. And how it works is it's just empty like that. And then we've got 2 caps. These guys here. They look like absolute shit. Look at this. I don't know if you can really tell, but that's the first layer that went down when I was 3D printing, and I've got to bugger around with the settings and get that a lot better than it is. So for now, I'm just going to sand it up. The parts we have here, we have 2 holes here, LED indication lights to say, like, you know, this is the charging light, this will be red, and this is the fully charged light, it'll be, say, green. And here we have a slot for the USB charging port. So yeah, like, it looks like a little face. That's no coincidence. And here we have the big hole for the actual, like, safety push button. This big guy. It'll fit in there. Yeah. On the inside of the case here, you can, I don't know if you can see, but I kind of routed out like a little bit. So this will fit in properly. It'll kind of like slot into there, sort of like that. But this, yeah, that's it. So now I'm going to sand it up and I will show you the finished product. Before I do that, so how I'm going to do it is I've got a whole ton of sandpaper here. 240p grit, so it's like the more, it's still quite fine, but it's the thicker style. And then I'm just going to work my way up to 1200p. So I've got 240p, 600p, I think 800p, and then 1200p. So this is like really fine, and that'll be like the finishing, the finish coat. And how I'm going to do it is I'm going to do it wet, so I don't want to heat this guy up with friction and somehow, you know, have it melt. It's quite thick, so I don't think that would happen, but I'm just going to be careful and kind of wet sand this. So basically the goal is, you see all these like lines, I'll get it in the light, you can see them lines going across like that. I just want to remove all that. I mean, the texture kind of feels cool, but I just want it to look nice and shiny. So I'm using the thicker grit sandpaper first to remove them lines to the point where it's like kind of, you can't feel the lines, right? And then I'm going to just sand it down with the finer stuff until it looks nice. That's pretty much what I'm doing.
3 hours later.
Well, boys and girls, after too long sanding, I've got this to a state where I think that it looks moderately okay. I mean, you can still see some little lines going across, but it looks a shitload better. So this was, I mean, this is just the first coat. This is the 240 grit, the thick shit. I've done it over all of these guys, so they're all like looking all white and sanded. There's still a few little nicks that you can probably see here and down here. But I'm gonna try smooth it out now and see how it gets. But I probably spent like half an hour sanding then, so I've really got to tune my 3D printer. Get that going a little bit better, because this is just a lot of time. I've done the sanding up to 800 grit. I was gonna do it to 1200, but fuck that. I'll be here all day. But I mean, it's not too bad. You can still see a few lines from when I got lazy earlier, but man, I'm building a taser, not a fucking piece of artwork. The first thing you're gonna want to do is screw the safety switch in the back. She's in, fit like a charm, nice and tight. Alright, so with the help of a tiny little bit of grease, I dabbed on the side of the battery pack. I don't know if you can't see, but I've jammed it in there. Now we need to get this guy hooked up to the thingo. Okay, so now I'm going to solder the LEDs onto this guy, because I really don't think that I'm going to take these things off, because, I mean, like, it's so close. The wires don't need to be there. The legs of the LED are long enough. Alright, so I'm just going to remove these guys because they're not necessary. We'll just get Maybe get a bit of solder onto it. Put a bit more solder on there. And it comes off instantly. See what I mean? I said earlier, if you're ever taking off shit with old solder, always apply more solder. Because just instantly, ready, watch. Just comes off. It's great. You can also leave little pools of new solder there, like ready to be tacked on. So this is a red LED. And remember, the red one is the further one back. The positive side is on this side near the edge of the thing. I'm just going to trim this so they're the right. Oh wait, oh yeah, also with LEDs, the longer leg is always the positive. Just going to tack the neutral leg on by heating up the leg and then sort of sliding it down into the solder. There we are, you'll see it wick up onto the leg. And now I'll break the pad. Yeah, I literally broke the pad, fuck. Terrible idea. So, leave these fucking wires on because they're flexible, and then just cut these legs down on the thing, because I just broke the tab on this guy, so I don't even know if this light's gonna work now, this thing. So I'm gonna test that out before I go any further. Leave these legs on, cut the legs off this fucking thing here. Okay, so now we need this thing to turn on. Otherwise I've shit the bed. Fuck it, come here. First I need the fucking charging cable, which is stuck behind here and it's not gonna reach. We need this little LED here to light up right now. And it does, so it's still good. We're just gonna be extremely careful. So I pulled the tab up there, so I'm gonna get this wire soldered down, and then I'm just gonna hot glue over the top of it to give it some, you know, structural integrity. So electrically it's still okay, but physically, no. So I'm gonna give it some strength with hot glue. Alrighty, so the connections are all soldered back on these legs, these guys, and I'm just gonna hot glue it down so the glue can take a bit of stress off the joints. Just gonna put a bit of decent blob on there and then just push it down with my finger. Burn my finger a little bit, but it's alright. Right. That's pretty good. Alright, so now all I'm doing is getting, well, fucking focus, you fuck. You can't see, but I'm getting the USB guy at a good position where I want it by just playing around with it in here. I'm not very good at this. And then I'm just gonna glue it in. So let's zoom the fuck out. USB's looking decent position. Just gonna glue it in now. Hot glue, man, is good shit. Just dabbed it on that side and on the other side. Let it dry now. Okay, so remember how I buggered up the coloring on the wires? I'm gonna fix that now. I'm just gonna heat shrink over the, you know, other wire with the appropriate color. Yummy. Lead. Yummy, yummy lead fumes. With heat shrink, you can, you know, shrink the shit by using your soldering iron, but you don't use the tip, right? Use this shaft part and just kind of gently. Okay, so what we're going to do as an extra little thing is cut off a little bit more heat shrink, put it back over the wire you're about to solder onto the safety switch, just so we can cover the terminal. And if you're ever in a situation where you can't get the heat shrink on the thing properly because it's a bit, like, you know, stiff, just a little bit of little bit of a lick, a little bit of saliva on there. Or like WD-40 or something. Just something to sort of give it a bit of extra something. She still doesn't want to do it. Oh, let's just hope she doesn't heat shrink onto that bit right there. Just gotta do it quickly. That'll do her. Then we can just slide the guy on. Let's just double check it's a decent connection. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Slide the guy back over, covering the terminal. Now, she's on there. Good and proper. Sweet beats. So now we've got the firing push button, you know, with wires attached, all heat shrinked up nice and nice. Now we're going to mount it into the hole. The wrong way. Let's get back out. Nice and carefully. Get your wires. Don't need to strip the ends of these yet because they're going to be cut to length. Make sure they don't twist up too much. Like, it's fine if they twist as long as they don't like twist up and then cause a lot of pressure and fuck the terminals of this guy in there. That's what you do not want. Now you're going to want to put your little washers on or whatever you have to mount it. You got a washer and then a little nut. Alright, so after you've fucked around for 10 minutes trying to get that little nut in there to go on nice and square, you want to get your wires, run them back through the guts of the box. You also want to ignore the tractors and shit that are driving outside. You only need to run the red wire to the back, right? Only the red wire, because the black wire needs to attach to the zappy. Alright, we've run that through. Now we can actually squish our transformer in there. So you just got to remember which way goes where. These two red ones are the, you know, probe parts that arc. So they go in first this way. Alrighty, so once you've performed heart surgery, trying to get the LEDs and all that connected up, what you want to do is get the positive wire coming from your push button switch, this guy down here, the fire switch. You've already run that through the back and you want to connect it to the positive side of your safety switch. You want to breathe in as much of the lead fumes as possible. As much as possible. Well, I've been fucking around down here soldering this guy up for quite a while now, and I kind of can't show you exactly every single little step because the hour will be like a video long. Yeah, you get it. The hour will be like a video long. So yeah, just follow the schematic of it. I've got the schematic there. Just follow that exactly, and it'll work out fine. Just make sure you solder the battery in, the battery charger, because I fucked up and I just had to unsolder shit, take the heat shrink off, and it was a pain in the ass. Make sure you get the battery charger in the first time, okay? So this will be the first test. So if I click this guy, safety is off. Now it should be live. It's not. It's got to be quite close, remember. There. Alright, so now I'm just going to put it all together. There we go. Okay, so it's going to push in like that, and then I'm just going to put a little screw in through the bottom of that guy. It's just going to push through this little lip that I intentionally put there for that reason. And yeah, that's how I'm going to put it all together. Oh, and one more thing, right? All the electronics down here in the, you know, where the LEDs are and the battery charging circuit, I'm just going to put a shitload of hot glue in there because I don't want any of this stuff to break loose, and I want this to last until I deactivate it after the video. Before you make any drill any holes, you want to get the thing and then make sure like it's going in correctly, and make sure when you put that drill through, it's not gonna fucking fuck anything up. Make sure it's not gonna short anything out, or your screws aren't gonna destroy the charging circuit or anything like that. So I've marked out 4 holes, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom, and I've made sure they're not gonna drill into anything. This is more or less just like a pilot hole. She's in. So now I've got these tiny little screws. Whoops. Tiny little screws. Make sure you're not going to screw into any wires, because at this point in the build, you don't want to fuck anything up like that. So now what you're going to want to do is get your probe. In my case, I'm just going to use this bolt. You're going to want to apply a bit of solder to the end here. Because it just makes it easier doing this before it's, you know, screwed into the thing. You probably want a soldering iron with a bigger tip. Yep, we got a decent blob there. Make sure you don't get it in the head of the actual screw, because you still need to screw the thing in, right? You want to burn your fingers on that? Fuck. Okay. So now you have screwed these guys in, the probes, into the, you know, face of the thing. These are it's screwed out of here and it's in here. We've already put a bit of solder on here, so we can easily solder these on. But before you do that, you want to get some heat shrink again, because it's important that these are not, you know, these need to be electrically isolated from each other in here. Otherwise, the spark gap is going to zap on the inside of the box, and you're not even going to see it on the outside. So this is quite important that you put heat shrink here, and I'm also going to hot glue the absolute shit out of it, because yeah, you just want to make sure that pretty much that the path of least resistance is on the outside across the probe, so you see the sparks. Okay, so I'm right about to run out of memory on the SD card, so all I'm going to do now is tin the tip of these wires, just quickly solder them onto here. Be quick, you don't want to melt the plastic, and then I'm going to heat shrink it and then glue the shit out of it and then screw it on like this. Okay, well, she's all together. The battery did run out, but all you missed was I soldered the connections for the transformer onto the inside of these guys. Put heat shrink over the connection on the inside, and then just put lots and lots of hot glue in there. And it's important. It's very important that you use a lot of hot glue in there as extra insulation. Otherwise, it can easily just arc around the, you know, around the heat shrink if it's not completely covering it. And yeah, so now once you've got these tips coming out like this, you just need to put a little bit of heat shrink over the end like that, just so it arcs across the end, not like on the inside there. Another way you could do it is just bend the tips so they're a little bit closer, and then it'll arc across that as well. But yeah, I want to just do this so they can be straight out. I can see a bit of metal down the bottom, so that might arc across that, but let's test it. Yeah, it is. It's arcing underneath. So that's not good enough. Ow. Still a bit of charge in them coils. Alright. So now what we're going to do is put some dielectric grease there. That might not be good enough either. I might have to pull these tips in. Okay. So I'm just going to use a little bit of this dielectric grease. And basically what that is just a super good insulator. Just going to put a bit, you don't need much of this stuff. Just a little dab. Then I'm just going to rub it around the edge. Least resistance. Alright, let's check. No, it's still going at the bottom. Just blew the grease out of the way, man. Maybe I didn't have enough there. Let's try now. That's it. Yeah, okay, so basically I decided just to bend the tip in a little bit to give it the extra, you know, make this the closest part. Like the path of least resistance will be right at the tip, so it's not trying to jump between like down here and stuff. I put dielectric grease down the bottom just to try, because it was arcing through the bottom. So I put that grease there and it did stop it, but then when I was doing it, it kind of crushed the heat shrinker, so it was kind of arcing across still. So I just bent it in a little bit there, and yeah, now it works like a charm. I don't want to get zapped by that. I have before, and it's scary. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty good. Well, if you like the video, guys, give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of stuff. If you want to see some other projects, post some stuff down in the comments. I'm open to do a lot of things, and yeah, I've got a bit of time now, so tell me what you want me to do. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one. Oh yeah, so one last thing. All of the schematics, I've said it before, all of the schematic, everything for this project is up on my website. The link for my website's in the description. So you'll go to the web page and then you'll scroll down and you'll see like download the report here. In that report, we've got like, it's just a PDF and it's got the bill of materials with links that you can just click the links and it'll take you to the place where I ordered the product. And yeah, it's got everything there, like the circuit schematic, which you will need. And in the PDF, I've also gone through like some of the theory behind basically how this thing works. Basically, with respect to like transformers, I've explained the basics of transformers and how they work, pretty much. So yeah, if you want to know a little bit more about the physics behind it, go check that shit out. Okay, cheers, guys.
Oh yeah, that's really not that bad.
You shut your eyes? Okay.
Oh!
So it's not that bad, eh?
It's not that bad. No, I'm alright.